Good morning and welcome, guys. We are in Portland, finally, on the West Coast. We actually made it. It took about a week, and yeah, we're here along the Willamette River, I believe, at a awesome little dog park. And unfortunately, we've seen some trash, so we grabbed the pickers from the cars, and we're gonna go around and see what types of trash we can find here. Very good vibes otherwise. Lots of friendly people, lots of friendly doggos. So hopefully we don't find too much, but we've already discovered a few bits and pieces, and we'll talk about some of those finds and maybe where they're coming from and how they compare to some of the other stuff we found so far along the way. So yeah, grab your pickers bags and enjoy the scenery. This is absolutely beautiful landscape out here. So much more video of that to come. Whew. All right, well, what an absolutely beautiful little walk. And you can't really quite see from this background, but we are a couple miles downriver from downtown Portland. I tried to take some videos, so hopefully they came out. Absolutely beautiful. Again, it's amazing what you find when you travel. And we just looked this place up on a map, a little dog park on the river, a couple miles downstream from town. Awesome stuff. And unfortunately, trash too. We ran into a couple of different people who said that they actually clean here quite regularly on weekends. And they said, yeah, similar sentiments to what I find people say back home in New York, where I live and normally clean, in terms of how trash is left behind, it's forgotten, all that sort of stuff. So in some ways, it's good to see that people recognize this problem across the country, but in other ways, it's a little daunting, right? To know that, well, the same problem is happening everywhere. But tried to get some good videos along the way of some of the different types of trash. And again, a lot of it was quite similar to what we find back home and what we've been finding so far. A lot of cigarette butts, probably the number one most common thing. But you find bottles, cans, all that sort of stuff. Again, same spiel that I would normally say. Yeah, you can recycle some. Others you just have to pick up and reduce, right? All right, so time for a change of venue, because bad news. It's such a beautiful day out that there's all sorts of people kayaking and fishing and swimming and doing all sorts of stuff. So every time I tried to record my wrap-up part of the video, somebody else showed up, and that can get obviously distracting. The good news is that we have, as you can see, a pretty epic Airbnb. So we just brought everything back here to wrap up and talk about. And again, just want to cover some of the stranger, more unique finds, because that's always pretty cool, or pretty interesting at least, to compare and contrast to, I guess now, what we're finding across the country versus what we normally find at home. And yeah, in general, obviously, as I mentioned, there's a lot of the common trash like cigarette butts, bottle caps, bottles, cans. You're going to find those, I think, pretty much anywhere in the world. And there's always stuff that stands out as pretty unique, like pineapple slice containers, and even things like, I don't know, what is this, chili pepper or something like that? Interesting. I talked about that, I think, in my previous video, about how if you find vegetables or fruits like orange peels, those are sometimes actually really good to pick up because they can be toxic to environments that they're not native to. So when I find these now, I do pick them up. But yeah, a lot of the common stuff that we find pretty much everywhere, like the styrofoamy stuff. Again, I say it back home and I'll say it again here, this stuff breaks up into more and more plastics until it becomes microplastics. It's sad to see in a beautiful river like that, honestly. And as I said last week, we were on the, what was it, the White River in Indianapolis. A lot of that stuff goes into bigger rivers and eventually into the ocean, right? So it's all connected. Yeah, cups, big jugs that this is probably maybe a little bit old, but it's going to continue to break down over time into, again, microplastics, gets into fish and all sorts of other things. And one interesting thing that I obviously found at a dog park that I wanted to talk a little bit about was what has come up back home at dog parks, which are tennis balls. And these seemed pretty abandoned. I didn't see any dog owners or dogs by these tennis balls. And some of these, in fact, seem like they're maybe a bit old. This one has a 2016 copyright on it. And yeah, some of them just get so muddied, I think, that they get kind of buried in the muck and people forget about them over time. So Wilson, tennis people, if you're watching, or if you watching have seen my Wilson sort of tennis ball cleanup, where I collected over the course of several beach cleans with some other people, over 1,000 tennis balls. They are in fact coming from dog parks as well. That was something that I talked about, trying to figure out, are they coming from tennis courts, cliffside tennis courts, waterfront tennis courts, or dog parks? And I think the answer is both. Trash comes from all sorts of sources, but I think we found 4 or 5 tennis balls here that seemed abandoned, whether they were cracked or broken or just degraded as heck. So certainly a source of, again, different types of chemicals and plastic pollutions as well. So good to pick up when you find them. And my other interesting find, unique find of the day, was a glow stick. Haven't found one of these in a long time, I think a couple of years, but not surprising. And I would say so far, in terms of what we found on our journey, obviously we've done a couple of locations now. And I think in addition to what I notice in terms of common items, the other thing I've noticed going through some of these cities is the fact that a lot of trash that I find, especially along rivers, obviously some of it is, or much of it maybe, is street side runoff, but a lot of it too really speaks to other societal problems and issues like homelessness. And that's something that I noticed particularly, I think you see it in every city, but I noticed it a lot in Denver, where there were so many people camped alongside the creeks and rivers, and they have all sorts of plastic items nearby. And I can imagine how that stuff could easily get lost or discarded, or a flash flood comes, wind blows it into the river. So I think it's important to note, and I've said this before with trash that's left at the beach. Yeah, some of it is left at the beach by ne'er-do-wells, right? Lousy people, lazy people who leave their trash everywhere. But I think much more of it is sort of incidental plastic pollution, or what I call incidental plastic pollution. I don't think, for example, that homeless people are aggressively trying to pollute our rivers and waterways, right? Obviously, there's all sorts of issues and challenges with, you know, what comes with an issue like that. So I think, and this is something once more that I say with any sort of environmental advocacy or plastic pollution discussion or cleanup efforts, so many of these issues are interwoven when you start to get into social, environmental, conservation issues. And I think that's, you know, one point that I've observed a lot of so far on this journey. So that's something that we'll probably see more of as we continue on this cross-country cleanup adventure. Unfortunately, but again, it's illuminating, it's enlightening. One of the reasons why I wanted to do this trip, and obviously we're seeing lots of other beautiful natural sights too, is to try to better understand how all of these issues are interconnected. And the homelessness problem, if I don't know the right term for it, I think there's a lot to be said for that. So we'll have more to say about that probably in some of these other cities that we clean up in. Now, I should also mention that you may be wondering why I think the first cleanup that I recorded was in Indianapolis, and now we're all the way in Portland, and we haven't recorded a cleanup since. And in fact, there's a very good reason for that, because I haven't been doing much cleaning up since then. And that's basically, to make a long story short, because when we got to Denver, we did a pretty epic hike in the mountains to a glacier at about 14,000 feet, and it was about 13 miles total. And as you know, if you've seen my videos, I like walking, I like hiking. I haven't quite done something like that, at least not in many years. So my legs were basically Frankenstein legs for the last several days. And I was actually worried that I really messed up my knees in particular, but just I think driving from Denver to Salt Lake City, we stayed out overnight, then Boise, and now in Portland, and having some time to rest in the car and stretch out in between long stretches, I'm feeling much better. And it's so much so that I was finally, I went from basically not being able to walk the last day I was in Denver to, again, I was in Frankenstein mode, to being able to do a beach cleanup today. So I'm going to try to take it easy probably the rest of the day. I'm building myself back up because the last thing I want to do is hurt myself. And that, you know, then there's no beach cleanup. So anyways, I was happy to do this one. It felt so good to get back out again and get some trash. We met some really nice people just at this park who thanked us for cleaning, and they said that they clean up as well on their weekends and that sort of thing. So yeah, curious what we'll find next continuing along. And again, we're on the up trek now, I think, in terms of my knees, I hope, as long as I pace myself. So we should have another cleanup. I'm not sure when. I might try to do a beach clean. We're going to Olympic National Park next in Washington State on the coast. We're staying at a campsite like a mile from the Pacific Ocean. So that should be pretty epic. And I might record a beach adventure, if not a beach clean. I hear that the beaches are actually pretty clean in the Pacific Northwest in general. At least that's what my friends say. But I also say, people tell me when they go to beaches by me that they're clean, and I say if I look long enough, I'm going to find trash, and I always do pretty much. So challenge accepted, Pacific Northwest friends and peeps, because we will be camping on the Pacific Ocean, essentially, and I will be investigating further to see what's out there. And ideally, as I've said, my goal and my hope is to one day maybe keep recording videos just to show the nature of it. But when and where I find trash, I will record it, and I will share it and talk about it and expose it as much as we can and try to do a little something about it. So that will probably be our next adventure, Pacific Ocean. I've never actually been there. I'm very excited to be on the opposite ocean in this country. So we'll see. Hopefully it's just beautiful nature shots and we can talk about that. That would be awesome. So who knows? Take your bets, I guess. But I'm going to take the next few days to rest up, probably do some exploring around Portland, maybe do a little bit more detrashing. There's a lot of detrash people I know on Instagram and Reddit in Portland. So maybe I'll run into some of them, which is cool that people are interested in that sort of stuff here. And a lot of places I've been so far. It's sort of inspiring in that way. But anyways, I've rambled on long enough, which is always the case, but more so when I'm on vacation having a great time cleaning up. So if you like this sort of stuff, subscribe. There's a button probably there, I'm going to bet. And we'll have more adventures on the road to come. Probably several more beach cleans to come. We actually haven't cleaned a beach yet, obviously, but that should be the next one. So till next time, thanks for joining us. Thanks for coming out and cleaning, enjoying the scenery. And until next time, stay safe, be well, clean well, and hope to see you on the beach on the West Coast very, very soon.